What's good, y'all? Spitz back here today for a new video, and today I wanted to talk about Greninja's Shadow Sneak. It's been a while since I've released some Greninja content for you guys, but like I said, I am a Greninja main, so I do want to become your guys' #1 Greninja content source. So if you like Greninja and if you like Smash Bros in general and Nintendo in general, make sure to hit subscribe if you haven't already. Like this video, share this video, and help me out because I'm trying to hit 600 subs by the end of the year. And I have a special coming up for Christmas and some more videos for you guys, so just stay tuned for that. And yeah, let's get right to it. So to start out the video, I have some quick non-specific facts for you guys. Number one is that it has no invisibility, so don't expect to be able to phase through moves or do anything like that because you don't get any of that. The only time you can't be touched is when you're out of the screen completely, and that's only when you're in the middle of teleporting, but besides that, you're completely vulnerable. The move does the same amount of damage on the ground as in the air, and it's 12% for the regular version and 14% for the reversed one. And also keep in mind that the regular one does more horizontal knockback, while the reversed one does more diagonal upwards knockback. So if you're going to hit somebody in the air with it and you want an earlier kill, it's more preferable to use the reverse one because then they're going to end up going higher versus going more horizontal. But it also does depend on your placement of where you use it. The move can be controlled while walking and jumping, and something I recommend to do is to put a bumper as jump, because if you're inputting side B with your thumb, it's kind of hard to be able to jump and side B at the same time with one finger. So if you have a bumper as a jump, preferably one you don't use already, then you'll be able to use your index finger to be able to simultaneously jump and hold up B. The move can't be cancelled, so you can't do anything too crazy with it, but there is some cool tech you can do with it. Shadow Sneak automatically turns itself around if you teleport behind an opponent, so you don't have to worry about manually inputting that. The shadow will show exactly where you're going to end up as soon as you let go of side B, so understanding the speed of it makes it a lot easier whenever you want to do stuff in the air or when you want to do stuff off of ledges, because holding it at ledges can really play mind games with your opponent. And finally, the move can only be held for about a second and a half before it forces you to teleport, and it travels about half of Final Destination and Battlefield. So covering the frame data of this move has a couple of sections to it. The first section is the initial disappear animation, which takes about 9 frames. You could round it up to 10 if you really prefer to, but it's about 9 frames. During these 9 frames, you are not invincible, like I said before, so you can still be hit, so be careful of your placement with it. From frames 9 to about 22, you're not touchable because you're completely invisible, and once you appear at around frame 22, your hitbox becomes active at around frames 23 to 30, and during that time, with both the regular and the reverse, you're able to hit an opponent, and as soon as frame 30 is up, you have about 35 frames of lag, which really leaves you open, so be extremely careful where you use this. It's extremely easy to SD with this move. The first time you use it off stage, you get a float. After that, anytime you just continue your fall speed, so be extremely careful where you use it because you don't want to end up SDing, or you don't want to leave yourself in a situation where you hit somebody's shield and you can't do anything because you're there for half of a second, which is basically any smash attack in the entire game can hit you. So yeah, just keep in mind that this move takes literally over an entire second to completely execute, which if you mess up, anybody can follow up with anything, and it basically sacrifices speed for surprise and early kills. So moving on to tips and tricks. Some tips and tricks I have for you guys are, number one, I said this earlier, but set your bumper to jump. I would definitely play around with this because it makes executing the move in rapid succession after a hit and being able to move and jump freely a lot easier. And if you don't believe me, go in training mode and go try it out, because ever since I've done this, I've never been able to change back because I just think it's a necessity, if you know what I'm saying. When falling off stage with it active, surprise jump reads can sometimes catch an opponent, so if you hold it and you know where the shadow is, you fall and jump last second, you can actually catch somebody pretty easily like this. Another tip is that the shadow, like I said before, can't be seen off stage, so take advantage of this. Just don't be too obvious. It's going to be pretty obvious if every time somebody's off stage, you're going to go for that horizontal kill with the side B. So sometimes mix it up. If you want to mess around with them with shurikens and hydro pump and back airs or whatever you want, then go ahead. But once in a while, throw out a side B because you never know, you could actually hit them. Another trick that I realized after playing Greninja for a while is that if both you and your opponent are both airborne while on stage, it's extremely easy to get a pick on them as long as you're not obvious, because if you really think about it, your opponent isn't going to be looking at the floor watching out for that shadow. So depending on how good your movement is, you can easily throw a Shadow Sneak in their face, and it's almost not unreactable, but extremely hard to react to if it's extremely by surprise. So just keep that in mind. If you have great movement, then you can basically do whatever you want with this move. Something a little less competitive but funny that I found is that darker and more 2D stages make it harder to see the shadows, so you can just play around with that if you really want to in casual. And finally, side B, when you hold it down to taunt works. So if you really want to style on somebody, make sure to try this out. I have gotten kills with it. I have no footage, but I can try to include it in a future video, maybe a montage. But yeah, I actually have gotten that before, which is crazy because it's one of the best feelings in the world. So for this next section, I just want you guys to know that there is no rage involved, no DI, and both of these are tested on FD. So what I wanted to cover was the kill percentages for the grounded version of the move only. Aerial would have been a lot more for me to have labbed out for you guys, which I'm sure you guys can figure out on your own the more you use the move, because you know, you can just generically tell when the move is gonna kill. But for reference, both of these are grounded, like I said. No rage, no DI, FD. Let's get started. So center stage floaties, which I use Game & Watch to test, the lowest you're going to be looking for kills around is 104, and most optimal is 107 for the non-reversed. And for the reverse version, you want to look from 104% lowest and 105% most optimal. For the lighties, which I use Little Mac to represent, your lowest percentage from center stage non-reversed is 108, your most optimal is 116 plus. And your reverse lowest percent is 108%, while your most optimal is 114 plus. Midweights, which I test dummied with Mario, your non-reversed are going to be lowest 118% and most optimal 121%. And for the reverse version, your lowest is 117% and your most optimal is 121%. And finally, for the heavyweights, which I use Incineroar as a test dummy, the lowest you want to look for is 126%. While the most optimal is 132%. And for the reverse version, the lowest you want to look for is 127%, while the most optimal is 133%. Moving on to the kill percentages for the ledge, we have basically the exact same rules and the exact same test dummies, so let's get started. Number 1 is for the floaties, which your lowest percent is about 70 and your highest percent is about 74 for the non-reversed. And for the reverse one, your lowest is 70, your optimal is plus 72. For the lighties, lowest you want to go for is 75%, but your most optimal is 78 plus percent. And the lowest for the reverse version would be 75%, while the highest is about 77% and up. Midweights, our lowest is 77%, and our most optimal is 83% and higher. And for the reverse version, its lowest is 80% and optimal is about 83 plus percent. Finally, for heavyweights, 84% is about the lowest you can go, and 91 plus is the most optimal you want to go for. And when you reverse it, lowest you want to go for is about 86, and the most optimal is 91 and plus. And finally, on to the last section of this video, I want to talk about where this move struggles. So I've talked about it in a couple cases before, but basically, this move, most of the struggling that comes from it is from speed. Lack of speed, that is. The move takes a while to teleport and activate a hitbox, which is problematic when you're trying to escape or when you're trying to catch an opponent quickly, because it's just not quick enough, because you literally cannot escape. Because as I said this before, and I will stress this enough to you guys, don't throw this move out whenever you want. Unless if you have basically your opponent in your hands and you know exactly what they're going to do next, don't throw this move out too much because it's just too slow. And to be a bit more technical, like I said before, after it's finished attacking, there's about 35 frames of not being able to put anything at all, which makes you extremely open, extremely not safe. It's not safe on shield, and you're basically food for anyone. And another thing, which I'm going to repeat myself again, it has no invincibility, so it can be hit. And something that not too many people think about, but is actually very common, and it has happened to me a lot before, is that if you use it too many times at ledge trying to recover, it can be predicted, parried, and also leaves you vulnerable. And speaking of being vulnerable at ledge, it does not snap to ledge, so don't expect it to be a quick recovery from off stage on, because once you hit the ledge, you're going to hit through it, anybody guarding, which is something else that you guys should keep in mind. But you're going to hit anybody that's standing in the proximity of the ledge, fall for 35 frames because you can't do anything, and if you have a jump up B or just regular up B. Just be very careful of where you use this because it's extremely easy to SD. And my last 2 points are that bad movement / obvious movement will give it away, And that's mostly because of the shadow and the pose that Greninja takes, because he does do like a really weird stance if you take too long to throw out the move or if you're walking with it. Yeah, so just be extremely careful of how you move with this because you don't want to be too obvious. And finally, the move can't hit directly below or above it. So even though this isn't really a deal breaker, if somebody's right above you, the regular side B will be able to sweep high enough to get basically above Greninja's head in front of him, but nowhere near directly above, and he just can't hit anyone below him. So be extremely careful with how you use this. Also, short hop to side B can sometimes miss on shorter characters, especially the reverse version because the hitbox is a lot smaller. So keep in mind on how you use this because you don't want to whiff your moves as is and just get punished basically. Well, that's about it I got for you guys for Shadow Sneak. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to comment down below. I answer literally every single one of my comments. Don't ever feel scared to text me on Instagram, which by the way, if you haven't followed me, is on my banner and also in the description. And I also put it at the end of every video in my outro. So I don't know what you're doing if you don't follow me, but make sure to go follow me because I'm very open. I like to talk to the community. I like to get to know new people and all that kind of jazz, all that kind of fun. But anyways, thank you so much guys for watching. I really appreciate it. It means the world to me. I honestly am so happy with how my YouTube has been going, and I have more stuff for you guys, and I want to keep pumping out content for you guys. I'm just a very busy person, but I'll try my best. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching. Peace out, Greninja mains.